Welcome everybody, Gibson here, and today we're going to be talking about 4 things you should start thinking about the second you hit Champ 160. Check them out. So the first thing we should start thinking about is collecting the materials for our Champ 160 gear. Now I know some of you might have just gotten a nice shiny set of, say, Champ 120 or 130 purpled out by a buddy. It didn't take you long to get the 160, I'm sure, but it's time, even if you can't afford to upgrade it right away, to go out and collect those mats, because the stat differences from any champ level below, it's just astronomical. When you factor in all the passes and whatnot with your class. Those materials, whether if you're in light armor, it's going to be Ancestor Silk. Heavy, it's going to be Rubidite, Rubido for medium, and then for shields and staffs, it's going to be Ruby Ash. It's not hard to go out and collect these. It shouldn't take too long, but if you want the option to go and buy them, nothing's too expensive, at least on Xbox One NA server right now, except for Ancestor Silk. So it'd probably only cost you, under 30 or 40k. Minus the upgrade materials, though. Those are a little bit more expensive. But first thing you should be doing is getting a max level set crafted. So the second thing I think you should start doing is looking at skill lines that you want to use that you don't have leveled up all the way. If you're anything like I was when I first went through the game, I used the same 5 abilities probably on one bar. I don't even know if I ever set up a second weapon. So now is the time to look through them, see what you want to play, level them up, because the passives that we get from these are so important to our build. It may not seem like it. I know it's fun to have a ton of different active abilities, but these passives are so important. So pick out what you want to use, level up the skill line, and then go from there. So after we've decided the path we want to take with our character, it's probably time to start talking to people, either in-game, trying to start researching videos. There's a lot of people out there putting out builds. You want to figure out what works for you, because there's a big difference between a guy that goes into a dungeon and just sits there and spams the same ability over and over again, between somebody that has an actual rotation. The damage is just going to be totally different. I know there's a lot of abilities in the game that are fun to use, some of them that just hit really hard, but it really comes down to having AoEs, dots, and single target damage. You can't just specialize in one. In certain cases, I suppose you could, but as far as how I build my characters, and I have followed many people, I'm not saying to go in there and copy and paste everything, but it's a good learning tool. You want to figure out what skills work with each other, and you wanna start practicing a rotation for your character. Some are easier than others. I would say if you want to start out with something easy, Magicka Sorcerer is probably the easiest rotation in the game. And as far as I'm concerned, from what I've played, the hardest I have is on a Stam DK. But it's all going to depend on your build. So figure out the path that you want to take, and once you have, go ahead, do the research, come up with the rotation, and then you can move on from there. So once we have gotten our max gear, we've leveled up some skill lines, we've found a decent rotation for our character, we're comfortable to go in and do some of the harder content in the game. I'm sure some of you, if you were under Champ 160, have experienced getting instantly kicked from a veteran dungeon of sorts. Probably couldn't join in on a trial with people, but now it's time to prove yourself. You can do just about anything. Some of the DLC vet dungeons are a little bit harder, and veteran trials are probably better left to maybe CP 300 or higher. But there's a lot of content that you wouldn't have been necessarily viable for before that you are now. Not to say that you couldn't have been, but chances are, you're starting off in the game. This is your first time at Champ 160. You've learned. You have to go in, do some of the harder content, and just keep getting better. Grind your way up to the max CP. I know it's currently 630 going into 660, so there's a lot of champion points for you still to get. Thanks for watching. I hope this is helpful to some people, and we will see you next time.